Let's talk about you first. You're an entrepreneur, you're a TV personality, and a philanthropist. How did all that come about?
Everything in my life came about gradually. I would see a challenge or an opportunity as I'm doing something else and decide that I really want to try it out. And then I would start doing it part-time, or attending classes on it, or listening to a lot of podcasts and figuring out how to get involved. So it depends on which sector I'm getting involved in. And once you start doing something like that, you eventually become involved full-time, and that's when I drop off something else. And so it was always like some things run concurrently and some things eventually just leave.
Did you have a plan for what you...
No, I mean, I thought I would be a teacher for the rest of my life. And I thought that was a great thing to do. I loved teaching. I loved, interacting with the students. And I never thought I would be anything else. And then the media opportunity came up. And I did that while I was teaching. I would go every other weekend to Beirut and tape my show. And I did that for a few years. And then the philanthropy opportunity came, and I had to decide, what do I want to do? So I left teaching, and I was doing media and philanthropy. And started doing that. And then I became an entrepreneur, and something had to leave. So I dropped media. So I became a philanthropist and an entrepreneur. And now I'm leaving philanthropy in a way and starting my consulting. And so, so it's kind of like this gradual changes. But everything has the same message. I like connecting with people. I like helping people. And everything I do eventually comes to that.
Well, the philanthropy is very obvious how that helps people.
Teaching, media, you're reaching out, you're giving information to a lot of people that have no idea what's going on in the world, or the real stories, or information, whether it's health, financial, educational, that you have access to because of, who I interact with, or the things that I read, and other people don't have that. And so everything I do ends up about people.
So what drove you to become an entrepreneur?
I'm a serial entrepreneur. The first time I started being an entrepreneur was because I couldn't find clothes that I liked. And I realized a lot of people have the same issue. They want to wear hijab, which is what I wear, but they want to look very modern. They want to look, at home, whether it's in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Milan, or New York, and they don't want to look like they're wearing ethnic clothing or things that are too bright, which we ended up doing because we would buy clothes from our home countries and wearing it in different contexts. And so I started designing clothes that I thought were very modern and very Islamic. And then my second entrepreneurial venture was Glowwork, which is to help women find employment in Saudi Arabia by lessening the barriers. So we do everything over the internet and on the phone, and we actually visit the women at home versus making them go for their first interview outside, which is one of the biggest barriers to actually getting a job. They can't do that first. Because logistically we don't drive in Saudi Arabia. They have to find somebody else to drive them. And so people will not drive them to their job because there's no job, it's an interview. But they will drive them if there is a job. And so we kind of get the women the job first and then allow her to become independent. So that's the second one. The third one is my consulting. I started a consulting firm with a friend of mine, and we work with companies and foundations that want to do CSR. And we help them find impactful ways of spending their zakat money.
How difficult has that journey been?
So, there's some things nobody tells you. And you have to learn on your own. And that's, balance and how to fit your life in with your ambitions. I have 2 children. One of them is a 20-year-old right now, and the other one is 14. And at a certain time of my life, I felt by fitting everything else in, I lost myself. I lost Muna. I didn't have time to do the things that I loved. If there was a work opportunity and it conflicted with my vacation, my personal vacation, not the family vacation, I would actually drop my personal vacation and do the work. The only thing that didn't get affected was family vacation, but I saw that as work as well. Family vacations are not as fun as they make them out on those pictures, you see, because you want the kids to learn and you want them to enjoy themselves, and somebody has to be orchestrating everything, and that is usually the mom. And so that was, when I was 35, I just woke up one day and I realized that if I want to take care of my health and I want to be healthy, I have to really balance my life. And so it was a very hard learning experience, but alhamdulillah, I think I got it.
You got divorced though, didn't you?
Early on, actually, early on. And the reason was I just made a mistake in choosing the partner, but I didn't make a mistake in choosing the father of my children. So we're really good parents together. We just weren't good at being husband and wife.
Do you think something always has to give if you're an ambitious businesswoman?
You can't have everything. You can't. And people think you can, and the reason is that they see one successful story, but the majority of women can't do this. So some people would delay their ambition. They would get the kids, that's why most entrepreneurs are age 39 and above. That's the average. Because they got the family out of the way and then they started becoming passionate about something. But when you try to fit everything in at that same time as childbearing years, then your health, your marriage, your family, your work, something has to suffer. It's only 24 hours a day.
When you think of Saudi Arabia, women and entrepreneurship, those three don't really seem to go very well in one sentence, do they?
It's not exactly a Western prejudice because there is some basis for it. But also we have to understand that Saudi Arabia has changed quite a lot in the past 5 years. The government is trying to create economic diversity and stop reliance on oil, and part of that is encouraging entrepreneurship. So there's a huge fund, for example, for technology entrepreneurship ideas. It's called SIRB, and there's Badr, and so there's all these kind of initiatives that have come up for the young generation. Now there's a problem with that because a lot of them have not had enough work experience to be able to be good entrepreneurs, and so they need a lot more support system, and the government is trying to create that. Now if you add the word women to that, Saudi Arabia, entrepreneurship and women, it becomes a little bit more of a difficult thing because now you're also working against the cultural norms. To be an entrepreneur, you have to become very passionate about what you do and you kind of devote your life to it. And women are not taught to stop all their lives and the things that are going on in them for one thing, which is work. And we're trying to bridge that gap, and we're successful in some cities more than others. So Jeddah, for example, Dhahran, we're finding women entrepreneurs who are rising up, and not through family connections and not through just a support system that helped them, but through their own work.
Do you think you have to be 5 times more determined to be a woman entrepreneur in Saudi Arabia than in the UK or the US?
The way I look at it is that if you want to make it in Saudi Arabia at this time, it might not be the case in 10 years, but at this time, you have to be an exceptional person because you're going through or against so many things, subconsciously and consciously. So it could be that your family supports you getting a degree and working and becoming an entrepreneur or climbing up the ladder, but society doesn't. And they put a lot of pressure for a lot of social obligations, and therefore to keep on saying no to these things day in and day out, to your in-laws and your, all these people that rely on you for being a good Saudi woman because you want to become a good professional woman. So the women who do make it are quite exceptional. This is not going to be the case in 10 years when we're now, in the past 2 years, we moved from only 70,000 women in the workforce to 200,000 through a huge initiative by the government and the Ministry of Labor, where they're actively recruiting women to get into the workforce.
But how many potential women are there out there?
Well, we actually know because we have a program called Hafiz, where every woman who wanted to work under the age of, I think, 40, registered in that program, and we have 1,300,000 women. So we know exactly the number of women that actually do want to work. Now, when you register there, you get a government subsidy. You get 2,000 riyals a month, about $500. But you have to do training, e-training, and you have to apply to jobs. So we're weeding out the women that just wanted to get the subsidies also and not want to work. So, within a couple of months, we should actually have the right number of women. But we also were able to segment society. So we know how many women want to work with high school education versus college education versus graduate level. And so we didn't have this type of information before.
And what's it taught you?
Well, it taught me that a lot of women actually with high school education want to work, but also the type of jobs that are available for them versus the type of jobs that they want, which is managerial, are quite different. So you have to work on the expectations of what can you really do with this and what kind of training you really need if you want to move up. And that's kind of creating a shift in society.
And how quickly is it changing?
Well, the past 2 years, it's changed. From 70,000 to 200,000, that's a huge number. We employed more women in the past 2 years than we did in the past 10 years. So you can just imagine. Yes, and also we have a lot of girls who went for their graduate degrees and their undergraduate degrees abroad as part of the scholarship program of the King. So I think we have about 130,000 coming back who will be educated abroad. And that's a huge number, so that's going to be also adding to the change. And it's a very exciting time because you're seeing the old culture versus the new culture, and what's going to emerge is the one that we really need. But it's also a very difficult time because transitions are always different and difficult.
You're quoted as saying, "I want girls to see that there's almost no limitation to where they can go." Do you think that's a vision for the future, or could that be a reality now?
It exists within certain segments of society. Women who have a good support system, who have educated parents, believe that they can go very far. The minute you go into the middle class and lower classes, then women are less ambitious because they're just not sure what's available, or they're not sure how to manage their time. Saudi women have an average of 4 children, which is double the world average. And I think triple China and Hong Kong. And so we have to be able to create a future that allows them to be Saudi, but at the same time give them all the opportunities they want. And we've been working on that. Part of it is also for them to see women who make it. One of the reasons I talk about my divorce all the time, and it's an amicable divorce, is that I want women to feel just because you had one challenge or one obstacle doesn't mean you stay at home and life is over. You can really go far. There's a very nice quote by, I think, the founder of the White House Project, which is, making a woman a president. It says, "You can't be what you can't see." So we keep on having to provide role models and emphasize them to women in Saudi Arabia and in the Arab world so that they understand that there's no limit.
Now let's talk about this conference a little bit. Why are you here today at this conference?
I'm very interested in entrepreneurship, and I felt that this conference was going to talk about things in a different way. It wasn't going to just be encouraging entrepreneurship as entrepreneurship, but look at the female perspective, look at the challenges that they face, look at various ways of dealing with it. So we have a lot of examples from all over the world coming in, and it's very small. So you can get to know the participants and you can have meaningful conversations versus when you're in a very large conference and there's a billion things going on and you just end up not getting the information you want. So I've already decided who I want to talk to and what are the questions that I want to ask, because we're doing Gillian Lacey-Solymar, which is a big entrepreneurial program to support women into the business world.
And what difference ultimately do events like this make, do you think?
Connections, networks. You can save a lot of effort if you know what didn't work and why. And I love that this conference is not about sugarcoating things, and there's been talks about failures, and there was one session that talked about the beginning, end, and middle of the entrepreneurial experience, and so you kind of like are able to measure yourself. Oh, well, this is where I am. I thought I'm here, but I really am in this stage, and that's really interesting.
If it's held again next year, will you be here?
I hope so.
Muna, thank you very much indeed.